Hello, continuing our reading in the book 3 of the Dimwood Forest series, Poppy and Rye by Avi. Today is chapter 2, Poppy and Aerith. It was cool in Dimwood Forest. Through the high canopy of trees, flecks of sunlight sprinkled the earth with spots of gold. But on the floor of the forest, inside a long, hollow, and decaying log, it was all stinkin' muck.
"More skunk whistle,"
mocked the old porcupine who lived in the log.
"Oh, who cares foot fungus about Ragweed's family? I'll bet they're nothing but nasty nose bumps."
Though his full name was Arizion dorsatum, the porcupine insisted on being called Aerith. Not the sweetest smelling of creatures, he had a flat face with blunt black nose and fierce grizzled whiskers. Sharp quills covered him from head to tail. He was talking to a deer mouse by the name of Poppy. Though most of her fur was soft orange-brown, Poppy had pure white fur on her round, graceful, plump belly. Her whiskers, which stuck straight out from her delicate pink nose, were quite full. Her toes were small, and her tail was long. As for her ears, they were relatively large and dark, and from the right one hung an earring. Nothing more than a purple plastic bead dangling from a tiny chain. "Aerith," Poppy explained, "if something happened to a child of yours, wouldn't you want to hear about it?"
"No, look here, Slugbrain,"
the porcupine said with something close to anger.
"I thought you liked living in my neighborhood. Thought you were my friend. But if you want to trundle off, forget me, make new friends, start a new life, go ahead. I've got plenty of things to do."
"Like what?" Poppy asked.
"Eating,"
the porcupine growled,
"and sleeping."
With a rattle of quills, Aerith moved off toward the far end of his log. "Aerith," Poppy pleaded as she followed after him, "let me try to explain one more time. Ragweed was a golden mouse. He was like no one I'd ever met before, and when he came here, I fell in love with him."
"Love,"
sneered Aerith.
"No, you can put love in a wasp's nest and chew on it."
"But I did love him," Poppy insisted, "and we were going to get married."
"Marriage," Aerith hooted. "Head for the toilet bowl and bring 2 plungers."
"But then," Poppy continued patiently, "that owl, Mr. Oakex, killed him and—"
"Poppy, stop. I've heard this slop 100 times.
"But all I want to do," an exasperated Poppy continued, "is tell Ragweed's parents what happened to him. Don't you think they should know? Besides, I want to give them this." She touched the earring. "So they'll have something to remember him by."
"Oh, listen, swamp mouth," Aerith said. "Take my word, they don't care what happened to him, no more than I do. Nope, wise up. You'd have to be a mushroom mucus not to know that."
"The thing is, Aerith," Poppy persisted, "the trip would be so much nicer if you came along. It'll be an adventure. We'll see the world."
"Oh, frozen frog pips," Aerith cried. "I don't want to see the world. I hate going places. I hate doing things. And I like being alone. Most of all, I'm sick and tired of hearing about ragweed. So beat it."
The porcupine continued on toward the far end of his log. A frustrated Poppy let out a sigh, tenderly fingered Ragweed's earring, then went to the open end of the log and gazed out at Dimwood Forest. This forest of towering trees was her home. One moment it was dark. The next moment it was light. Usually serene, the forest often exploded with noisy life. Though Poppy loved the forest dearly and would miss it, she felt a great need to make the journey. Poppy had to acknowledge that there was no particular reason for Aerith to go. He had never met Ragweed. Besides, Poppy hardly knew where his home was. Ragweed had never offered much detail about it. "The woodland," he called his home area. He said it was a few miles west of Dimwood Forest. His family nest, he had once told her, was on the banks of a brook. He referred to it as little more than the brook. It's a decent spot, girl, Ragweed had told her. But know what I'm saying? Like Dullsville, totally. Nothing ever happens there. Tell me about your parents, Poppy had said to him. They're named Clover and Valerian. He said, pretty cool for parents, but hey, like, I need to see the world, and I did, too. Did they give you permission to go? Poppy asked, impressed with Ragweed's story. At the time, not only hadn't she gone far from her own family, she was certain her parents would never allow her to travel. Ragweed laughed. Nah, they weren't too easy about what I was doing, particularly Clover, my old mouse. But, girl, a mouse has to do what a mouse has to do. Will you ever go back? Poppy wanted to know. Oh, sure, someday. And hey, dude, I'll take you there, Ragweed promised. Bet you'll like my folks. They'll think you're way sweet. Why? 'Cause you're my main girl. Then Poppy remembered Ragweed had winked at her with a sense of his own saucy being. But Ragweed had died. And Poppy wanted to tell his parents what had happened. Maybe she mused it was her way of saying a final goodbye to the mouse she had loved. Still, to go all that distance alone would be quite an undertaking. It was not that Poppy was frightened of the distance or of being alone. It was merely a question of wanting to go with someone. True, she had plenty of sisters and brothers, cousins too, for that matter. Still, she could think of no better companion for an adventure than her best friend, Aerith. But now the porcupine had said no. Poppy sighed. There were moments she actually thought Aerith was jealous of Ragweed. Then the notion struck Poppy that it was probably nothing more than Aerith feeling his age. How like Aerith to be so proud he wouldn't admit to such a thing. She wished she had not pushed him so. Never mind, Poppy made up her mind. Since she wanted to go, she'd go alone. Oh well, she thought, I'm sure I'll meet someone interesting. Besides, once I get back to Ragweed's brook, it should be pleasant and calm. Recalling his words about the brook, Poppy smiled. I could use a little dullness in my life, she thought. Poppy went back to the log to say goodbye to Aerith. He was at the far, smelly end, licking a hunk of salt as if it were a lollipop. Trying to keep from inhaling too much, Poppy said, Aerith, I wanted to say goodbye. The porcupine offered up an indifferent grunt. And Aerith, I should apologize.
For what?
Asking you to come. Aerith paused in his licking and squinted angrily down at Poppy.
Why?
I should have remembered you're too old for such a trip. The salt dropped from Aerith's paws with a clatter.
To what?
He gasped. Well, you know, Poppy said with care. Elderly.
Me? Old? Elderly?
The porcupine cried, quills bristling.
You twisted bee-burp. I can do whatever I want. When I want. Where I want. Oh, or are you hankering to turn yourself into a busted bee-bottom?
But Aerith...
No, look here, you pickle-tailed fur-burger,
he roared on.
I can keep up with you any day of the week. Night, too, for that matter. You slippery spot of squirrel splat.
You mean you'll come with me? Poppy cried, trying to keep from grinning.
Blow your nose and fill a bucket,
Aerith screeched.
Can't you understand anything? Never mind me going with you. You're going with me.
And with that, Aerith burst past Poppy, moving so fast, so furiously, his quills combed her belly fur into 27 neat rows. Poppy, laughing, ran after him. And that is the end of chapter